Hi guys, this is Mary. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to review A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I just finished it this morning and I have some thoughts, so why not share them? Before I talk a bit more about the book and the series, I just want to say if you have no idea about what this series is about, or you haven't read A Court of Silver Flames yet and you don't want to know anything, I would say that if you don't want to know anything, please skip this one and come back once you caught up or you decided that you don't mind knowing everything that's going to happen in this book. So yeah, just wanted to give you a heads up before you continue watching. First off, I just want to start my review by giving you a bit of background about my personal enjoyment of Sarah J. Maas books. I'm not a Sarah J. Maas fan. I feel like her writing has a lot of opportunities, such as the length of her books, the telling and not showing of her writing. She doesn't use a lot of synonyms, which bugs me. And overall, some of her characters lack nuance. The best example I could give to kind of illustrate what I'm trying to say is that some of her characters are saints, such as Farah, Ryson. They have some difficult things that they've lived through in the past and have done bad things, but at the end they're not that bad. They're always justified. So they're really a separation between the really good saint characters and then the villains, not as nice characters. So the better example for that is Tamlin. He's just been treated like he's the worst throughout the story. So yeah, I'm personally not a fan of that. I prefer more nuance in characters. Going to give you an example that pretty much everybody knows about, Game of Thrones. One of the most interesting character of Game of Thrones, in my opinion, is Cersei. She is mean, she has that attitude, she does some manipulation, but at the end, she's just a woman that wanted to protect her child and was in love with her brother, which is not something accepted by society. And throughout the show, the author is not trying to justify what she does. She does what she does because it fits with who she is and her character and everything, and those are bad things. But at the end, she also has some parts of her that are redeemable, and it makes her a very great character, very interesting. Same thing with Tyrion, who has done some good and bad things. So throughout the story, sometimes you're not agreeing with what he's doing, but overall, you wouldn't say that he's a saint, but you wouldn't be saying that he's a villain either way. So just to say that those are the characters I tend to like more, those who are a bit more nuanced, a bit more gray, and they feel a bit more real and believable, in my opinion. Sarah J. Maas is not the best at that, and it could be because of personal choices and preferences. Maybe that's what she likes in characters, and having that clear distinctions between good and bad. Maybe that's what she enjoys, and maybe that's why she's writing the way she is, and that's completely fine. I'm just saying, personally, not a fan for the reason I just talked about. The other thing I would want to add is I think that clear distinctions in her book about who's good and who's bad makes our antagonists very cartoonish, and they are the weakness of her fantasy plot, because she tends to have two plots in her books, one that's romantic, the reason I'm reading it by the way, and the other one is more fantasy, action, adventure, and that part could be better, in my opinion, if her antagonists were better. And that's what I was thinking about going into A Court of Silver and Flames. Now you may be wondering, why the hell did you pick A Court of Silver Flames if you did not even enjoy the Court of Thorns and Roses series? For two reasons. First, in all the cast of character of A Court of Thorns and Roses, Caitian and Nesta were the one I was interested in, and they were the ones that the dynamic was something that I personally enjoy more in romance. So we have that girl that is sure of herself. She doesn't need a boy. And then there's that big brute that's totally pining over her, and and they have that dynamic where there's a lot of banter. It's a bit competitive, and to me, it's yeah, pretty much my liking. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pick that one up particularly, because it was going to focus on those two characters. The second reason why I picked it up is because whether you like it or not, this series has such a sense of community that I sometimes wish I could be part of it and loving it as much as everybody else. So I find that community to be kind of fun, because everybody's always discussing what they like, who's their favorites, what they are hoping will happen in the next books. So yeah, I just was thinking I want to be part of that. I wish I could love it as much as everybody. Sadly, I don't, but I can see why people enjoy it though. To give you a summary of the plot, we are picking up where we left in the last book of this series, which was the novella A Court of that one, the one that everybody hates. Yeah, and yeah, I didn't like it either, because I'm going to give you my thought at the end of A Court of this one, the third one. At the end of the third one, Cation and Nesta were getting together, and then in the novella, like everything fell apart, but it felt a bit like everything fell apart only because there needed to be a conflict for it to be a full book about those two coming back together. Getting back to the plot, sorry. So Nesta has been having some remorses. The war ended, it was a traumatic event, she lost her father, and she's still not really happy about being forced to be in the free world. She didn't choose for that, and she's still mad at the power she has and how they can be destructive, and she does feel like she's destructive as well. So she goes a bit on a destructive tendency, and she's kind of spending all of the money, the good money of the night court, and enjoying her life, trying to forget everything and go through that hard phase of her life. When she's summoned to the night court, and basically they slut shame her. So let me talk a bit about that, because I had opinions. First off, let me summarize. They call Nesta in the night court, and there are all the characters that are there, and she's alone on her side, and everybody is basically saying how they do not agree that she's sleeping with a bunch of different people. They do not agree about her drinking habits, on her being in taverns, which she does love to go in taverns because there's a lot of music and she enjoys music. And they are basically saying you have two choices. Either you go our way, stop going to those places, start training and start working at the library, or we send you back into the human realms where they know that they do not accept fairies. So first off, I would like to say that I do agree that the fact that she was spending money that was not her own is something that they can have an opinion on. Like, I totally agree. If you were spending all of my money being like a rock star in the woods, I would be mad. Yeah, I would. But at the same time, they could give her an allowance, or they could say get a job, or anywho. I feel like that's okay. They can have an opinion on. The fact that she likes drinking, the fact that she likes having multiple partners, I don't feel like she should be shamed for. There's definitely a double standard going on, because all throughout the series we heard about Cation, Az, and Ryzen talk about how when they were younger they would sleep around a lot, and it seemed as not a bad thing. So I feel like it's not fair to be shaming Nesta for her habits when they were doing the same things. Like, it's not fair that those male characters are kind of praised and it's seen as a good thing they were sleeping around, but not her. I mean, she's a adult. There was consent. Leave her alone. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with you. If it, I mean, if it's a phase, it's a phase. If it's going to last her whole life, that's up to her, as long as it's consensual, as long as everybody is happy. I don't think anyone should have an opinion on that, to be honest. Keishan, okay, can have an opinion because he's sad. He would want to be one of those persons she's sharing her bed with. Okay, like that's okay. That's genuine emotion. You feel a bit of jealousy. Okay, but the other characters such as Farah, Ryzen, like, and Amran, I don't remember. I haven't saved the comment she made. But yeah, she made a very condescending comment saying how she shouldn't be doing that and how gross or whatever. Yeah, just wanted to say I do not agree with that. We're in 2021, and when I read fiction, I don't want to be reminded of double standards, please. And even for the drinking, I feel like they shouldn't have been so condescending about what she was doing. It's not the source of the problem. Those are just coping mechanisms she's using to try and get better. The thing that they should have put more emphasis on was the fact that they felt like she was not feeling good and they wanted to offer help. But if you offer help and the person doesn't want it, you cannot shove it down their throat. They're adults. She's an adult. Like, leave her alone. I did agree with Nesta when she was like, so you're not going to let me live my life. You're going to make decisions for me, which I have nothing to say against. Great. I was mad for her genuinely, and I'm kind of mad at the author for having those double standards when it comes to women sleeping around vs men's. Since she didn't really have a choice, she started training and going to the library. So she's starting to do what was asked from her. She goes training, she goes work to the library, and she builds up some, I felt, very genuine, cute friendship with two other characters. This is one of the good part of the book. I felt like those characters were cute. I liked the relationship they had together. So she starts training. She's starting to get better and seeing how she likes having control over her body. She's learning breathing techniques, which helps her getting over everything that happened. And she starts getting closer to Cashin. At the same time, in the background, there's also kind of a fantasy storyline getting on. And first off, I just want to say, bringing back an old villain that was supposed to be defeated in your last book, not a fan of, and creating new objects, like, it's the thing is, you're selling the cauldron as being that ultimate thing. It's so powerful. There's nothing as powerful than that. You get rid of that thing, and then there's more objects. I feel like it's never ending. Like, you're just going to pop off new objects each time you want to make your stories longer. Like, no, come on, no. The old thing with Lucian's brother, like, didn't care for as well. So all that to say that there was a fantasy subplot. Didn't think it was any interesting, to be honest with you, and it kind of dragged the story. So yeah, everything ends up with Farah having a baby and the sisters coming back together and repairing their relationships, which that I do feel was something sweet to do. Like, this felt very real for me. I like that part, them trying to get back together, because I do have two sisters. I know what the dynamic is like, and yeah, sometimes you have to repair your relationship because sometimes you're just angry and not agreeing with each other's behavior. So there are a few things I want to talk about. First, the name of the sword, because next time the story goes and she's just building up a sword and she gives it a name, and she picks up a name from a book and call it ataraxia, and she doesn't know what that means. Why would you choose something random like that? Like, at the end, everything worked out because it meant inner peace, so good for her. But just saying, like, I would not suggest you choosing random words like that for your sword. Another point of the story is when they are in the prison. They are getting there to go and get an object, a magical harp. And while they are in that very gory place. There's some deaths, some monsters, everything. Nesta feels like it could be a good moment to just open up her heart to Cashin and tell her she's always been in love with him. And it doesn't happen because it was not this situation to do that. But I was just reminded of that scene in the third book where Farah and Rhys are going at it in a camp where a lot of people are sick and dying and screaming. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but I think that the author has a gory sense of what's romantic, to be honest with you. Like, what the was going on? I thought it was funny. And the other part of the plot that I felt a bit why about was the Valkyrie aspect. So don't get me wrong, love the idea of having that whole woman squad, having them fight together, having them go against all odds. Love that idea. I don't understand why she would take the name Valkyrie for that. If you're going to make up everything in your books, the name, the world, everything, why would you not make up a name for your badass group of women instead of taking that from Norse mythology, which does not exist in the world you're in? Just saying, food for thought. It did pull me off of the story, and I was like, what? Why would you do that? So now, the part we're all waiting for. Did it deliver romance-wise? Did it deliver? Because, going to be honest, when people were speaking about the first trilogy, they were all saying how it was steamy and how the romance was so awesome. And I remember reading the second one and being, where's the steam? I'm waiting for it. Where is it? So when people were saying that A Court of Silver Flames was really steamy, I was like, okay, yeah, it's going to have like 2 or 3 steamy moments and we're done. But I have to say, it did deliver. But romance-wise, that's out for the scene. Like, we got the scene. Happy about that. But romance-wise, what are my thoughts? So first off, I have to say that I still like their dynamic. I feel like they feel a bit equal to equal because they both are strong people. The male is more pining over the woman and vice versa, which is my preference when it comes to romance. But Cashin has to chill acts. Like, the jealousy and the possessiveness was too much. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. In the book, there's all that plot about Lucian's brother Eris, who they're not sure if that character is ally of the Night Court or not. So they send Nesta trying to seduce him to make sure he's on their side. Cashin just is so controlling and jealous, makes Eris stop dancing with Nesta, dance with her, and afterwards make Az, which he calls his brother, dance with her, and he watches them over and he's content because she's dancing with someone he chose was okay for her to dance with. No, you can be jealous, I understand that. You can be a bit insecure, I understand that. But you're not going to choose whoever she's dancing with. No. Cashin was ruined for me. Like, no, that's no. The other part that was a bit annoying for me, romance-wise, was the I like you but no, I like you but no, I like you but no. At the end, I was like, I was seeing it coming. Like, oh, he hasn't told her they're mates yet. There's going to be a big fall off because of that. It's so predictable. Like, the same thing happened in the second one. Like, come on, can't they just be adults, get together and get over those kind of matters? Like, yeah, I felt a bit too dramatic on that sense, and it felt a bit like, you know how those CW shows, characters get together but they're not, and they go back but they're not. It's a little bit like that. So if you like that, maybe you did enjoy the romance, but for me at some point it felt like the reasons for them falling out are not that good. My expectations of the romance sadly were not all met. They were met regarding this team. I got it, happy about that, but I didn't appreciate how Cashin was controlling, and I didn't appreciate how there was so much back and forth between them, connecting but no, and the the reasons for them being in conflict didn't feel necessary and it felt stretched out. How do I think this story could have been better? Listen, I feel like the whole plot about Nesta having powers from the cauldron she's not mastering is super interesting, great, makes her a bit dark, great, keep that. The whole part about her connecting with other women while they're training and all trying to get better as persons, love it, keep that part. The other thing is how did they call it, the right? I think that was a good idea, keep that. What I would have done if I was the one that could rewrite the story, I would have kept all the beginning where she's trying to get better with all the slut shaming and where she's meeting those women, training, creating bonds, and I would still have put them into the rite but earlier, and the story would have been more about them going through the rite and afterwards and forming the Valkyries. And the subplot would have been Rice and Farah trying to have that baby without them dying. Everything regarding Iris, I would have cut out everything regarding the Throve, and I would have made sort of romance happen, put away all the back and forth between them connecting and then not, and that felt unnecessary. So I felt like the potential was there, but it should have been 400 pages, put off a lot of stuff that was in there, and maybe focus on different aspects that were actually interesting, in my opinion. I feel like in those books there are so great ideas going on, but they are not developed because they are all battling against each other to have screen time, if that makes sense. To wrap up my thoughts, I think that that book had some good elements to it. I like the romance in general. Some parts were not to my liking, as I previously discussed. I thought that the relationship between Nesta and the two other girls were super awesome. I did like that part. I did like the part where she was just repairing her relationship with her sisters and getting to a point where she accepts where she is and she feels strong and she feels in control of who she is. Those are good aspects and I would never take those away from the book, but there are some problems and other aspects I'm not for us I discussed. So that's it. I'm done ranting about this book. Comment down below if you've read it, if you enjoyed it, if you did not, what part were good to you, what were not. Are you going to read that series? Let me know down below, and I'll see you in my next one next week.